everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. Before we get into a main conversation tonight, let's touch on the matter discussing outrage in Nigeria, especially online. A lot of Nigerians are not happy. It is the issue of the alleged excessiveness and underhandedness of some personnel of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police Force. Nigerians and some celebrities took to the social media to criticize the role of the police operatives. Police authorities had announced the immediate ban on the personnel of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, FSARS, and other police tactical squads from carrying out routine patrols and other conventional low-risk duties. The order from the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, also names the Special Tactical Squad, Intelligence Response Team, Anti-Cultism Squad, and others operating at the federal, zonal, and command levels. Mr. Adamu also warns the tactical squads against the invasion of the privacy of citizens through an indiscriminate and unauthorized search of mobile phones, laptops, and other smart devices. They are to concentrate and respond only to cases of armed robbery, kidnapping, and other violent crimes when the need arises. Well, the vice president has joined his voice, although at some point he has intervened some years back when this case arose and Nigerians were also enraged. The vice president, YemiOsinbajo, applauded the IGP's ban on routine patrols by FSARS and other tactical squads of the police. Professor Osinbajo, who was speaking to State House correspondents in Abuja, describes the routine attacks on young people of Nigeria as infuriating.
I'm very concerned, in fact, sometimes angry about what I see happening, to young men and women who are arrested or in some cases maimed or killed, by men of the police force and, in some cases, those who man tactical units of the police force, such as SARS and the other different tactical units that there are. It is completely objectionable. It's unacceptable. These are individuals who are meant to protect Nigerians. For example, and I think in the statement it specifically said that you cannot have a situation where SARS say they're investigating cybercrime and arresting people, young men and women who are carrying laptops and carrying on their phones. Cybercrime is an electronic crime. There's no way that you can investigate that by seizing people's phones in a taxi or in their cars. So I think it's very obvious that this is a major concern. A few bad eggs within the police force are causing a lot of these, and because it's all over the place in different states, there's a need, of course, to take serious action. I think that the IG statement today is a good first step.
Well, this is some of the reactions of the vice president. Of course, we've been hearing and seeing some of these reactions. We'll get some more reactions on the way forward. Well, Nigeria's independence and the journey after the 60 years has been a matter of national discourse over the past few days, especially since Nigeria clocked 60 on 1st of October. We got the views from some prominent Nigerians on some of the way forward for this country. Take a listen to some of their views.
We need a restructured Nigeria. We have to have a restructured Nigeria so that we can release our potentialities and develop our different areas. I'm very confident that the Igbos have the capacity to develop their place, as well as other parts of Nigeria. Look, make no mistake about it. If there is a test of who is a true Nigerian, I think the Igbo man is it. Now, and that is why I've been very activist in propagating restructuring and going into alliance with other ethnic groups in Nigeria to show that it is not an sole Igbo agenda. It's an agenda that favors the whole of the country.
Why there's problem in the governance is because there's no stability. If there is a stability, all this problem will disappear. There are other countries Take Kenya, for instance. They've never experienced military rule. They are making progress. We are far ahead of them before. In fact, we got our independence before them. Look at Ivory Coast. Look at Malaysia. Look at Indonesia. Look at Brazil. Brazil and Nigeria started assembly plant together, almost at the same time. Today we are not assembling anything. The 5 we started, or 6, we are no more assembling. But Brazil are ahead of everybody because they are now manufacturing their vehicles, not assembly. They are manufacturing their train, locomotive and workers. They are manufacturing their ships. They are manufacturing their airline.
First of all, we need to return a lot of power that is currently being held by the federal government. We need to return them to the federating units. That power over education should be substantially returned to the regions or of the states. Power over agriculture should be substantially returned to the federating units. Health should be substantially returned to the federating units. The federal government can set minimum standards, but the actual management of these things should be left to the federating units. So it is the things that bind us as a country, like defense, like customs, like foreign affairs, these are the things that need to be controlled at the center. Other things should be decentralized, completely decentralized. The federal government wants to be managing water resources. Why should the federal government manage water resources? Water resources, is the responsibility of each of the component units.
Let us emphasize what unites us. Let the professionals take up their role. You cannot build a nation without professionals, the middle class in general, having a professional ethics that informs what they do on a daily basis. Take the question of corruption. You can hardly have corruption on a large scale that we have it if auditors are not complicit, if lawyers are not complicit, if civil servants are not complicit. So I think so the professionals must get up and say enough is enough. Enough is enough. One of the first papers I read in graduate school, what is the problem about corruption? And Colin Lace, who wrote it, gave a history of corruption in various countries and how it was dealt. He said it was dealt with at the time when professionals were just fed up with the mess the political class was making of the country. And they now said, enough is enough. We are now going to stand on our ethics. And that ethics is now transformed into political parties as well.
Some deep thoughts from those eminent Nigerians there, from issues of experience that they've shared on the way forward for Nigeria. Another person has shared yet another insight into the way forward for Nigeria. He's the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye. He's joined those calling for restructuring of the system. Pastor Adeboye says restructuring of the country must be done as soon as possible to forestall a breakup of the various socio-ethnic components that make up Nigeria. He proposed the adoption of a merger of the British model of governance and the American system to pave way for Nigeria's stability. Well, let's get to discuss these matters some more. I'm being joined on the program by a former Speaker of the House of Representatives and one of the leaders of the new political group, the NCF National Conscience Front, Honorable Gali Naba. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Distinguished Honorable Naba, let's begin the conversation. I probably will get your views. A lot of Nigerians, eminent Nigerians, have been sharing their views on the issue of the SARS and the operations, the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Police across the world, even in the United States, you see a lot of misbehaviors on some of the bad eggs. We've been seeing this happening in Nigeria for some time now, where police will just flout the law. And in fact, some of them, you see them wear some clothes that you never believe that they are, except for the fact that they're having guns in their hands with the tag of the Nigerian police force. But how can we nip this in the bud beyond the summary suspension of the activities and banning them from road checks? What could be the solution into this mess that we find ourselves?
Well, thank you very much for having me on your program. Concerning the police, I believe that we have one of the best police service in the world. And it is a paradox that this service is behaving the way they are being said to behave. I am aware that police all over the world have been facing these kinds of problems. In the United States recently, there has been demonstrations in many states over police brutality, dating back to almost 4 months today. And I believe that what must be done in case of Nigeria is that the process for the recruitment of police personnel must be looked at with a view to rejuvenate it so that men of character are employed in that service. And there must be a reinvigorated system of training for the police. And right now, I'm aware that a lot of police men are very, very frustrated about the service, where particularly their welfare is concerned. I was speaking to a top police officer recently, and what he told me alarmed me, because he was training the police, the newly recruited policemen in the area of shooting. And he told me that most of them that came for the training had to use their own funds to come, and they had to be using their own funds to feed themselves, and things like that. And when they don't have the funds, it is the commanders that provide money for them to feed themselves. So there are many narratives like this within the police service. When you go to police stations to report a problem, you will be asked to buy paper and pen. If you want to report a theft, you'll be asked to provide a vehicle that will pursue the perpetrators. All these kinds of things happened. So we need to look at the police holistically. There is a lot of frustration in the police. I'm not apologizing for the police, but we must understand the problems we are facing. Today, the police personnel are doing their best as far as I'm concerned. But also, you'll agree with me that the first thing that the policeman thinks of when you ask him to go and face criminals is what happens to him, because there is a potential death waiting for him. And what comes to his mind immediately is what happens to his family when or if he dies, and which is very common. Because I know that immediately servicemen die, the authorities now ask for their houses to be vacated by their families and things like that. So honestly, we must look at all of these problems, and the sooner we do it, the better. We have one of the best police service in the world. Even this banditry and other things, I'm sure the police have the potential to contain these problems. But for these frustrations, it is making it impossible for them to face these tasks squarely. So when we look at what some of them are perpetrating, we must also be compassionate enough to look at the problems they are facing. This is my view.
All right. So let's get into the matter of moving Nigeria forward after the 60 years. On a lighter note, if I may, for those who have said some of the past generation, those who were active in the last 60 years, have done a huge harm, some of them, to the nation, and we need to now start looking for the way to fix the next generation, the country for the next generation. So we're going to be talking about solution. Some are of the views that we do know our problems as a people. It's not as if we don't know. Your group, the NCF, had come forward to say Nigeria needs to be rescued. So let's talk about how this can happen. Pastor Adeboye has suggested that for Nigeria not to break up, we need to restructure. But the big question is, how? From your view, Honorable Naba, how do we fix this restructuring matter?
Well, restructuring means so many things to so many people. And a lot of people have accepted the fact of restructuring. But what do we restructure? How do we do the restructuring? I believe that we must come to a table and sit down and discuss and determine what do we restructure and how do we do this restructure. Most of the things one hears about restructuring are on the pages of newspapers or from the electronic media. There has not been any conscious effort to put people together to come out with the sort of restructuring that Nigeria requires. I accept that after 60 years, it is important for us to look at what happened in the 60 years with a view to adjust what needs to be adjusted. And I believe that there are many things that need to be adjusted in this country for us to be able to continue our journey confidently. A lot of people have lost confidence in the country. And a lot of people are saying so many things that they should not be saying. And these are as a result of frustrations. And these frustrations are multifold. So we need to be compassionate enough to come together and look at the problems, and whoever and wherever complaints come from, these complaints should be listened at with a view to adjusting so that everybody has a space in this country. This is my view about restructuring.
Stay with us, Honorable Naba. We'll get your closing thoughts on the way to go from here as we start yet another journey after the first 60 years. So we'll take a break, everyone. And when we come back, we'll take you to Ondo State, where crisis erupted in a clash. The police say they are investigating as we look forward to an interesting governorship election race in Ondo State. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome back to the program. Before I take you to Ondo State, where a lot of the political activities will happen in the coming days ahead of next weekend's governorship election, let's get the closing thoughts of former Speaker of the House of Representatives and one of the leader of the new political group, the National Consultative Forum, NCF, Honorable Gali Naaba. Let me get your closing view on this issue of getting Nigeria, moving Nigeria forward. You were in the National Assembly. The NCF had actually agitated for a new constitution for Nigeria. Legally speaking, where do we go from here? If you were the president of Nigeria, would you restructure Nigeria the way some people are asking that we need a new constitution, and how would you go about it?
Well, Nigeria, of course, has a constitution, and what is important is whenever the need arises for constitutional amendments to take care of potential areas of problems, then such amendments could be done by the National Assembly. However, there are lots of Nigerians who believe that the Constitution shall be jettisoned and a new Constitution that will be a product of the people of Nigeria must come into being, of course, with the active participation of the people of Nigeria. The current constitution, which I cited, was a product of the military. The military handed this constitution to us. It is not Nigerians that sat down and fashioned out this constitution. And what most people are saying is that there must be a new constitution based on referendum. People must participate. And I totally agree with this proposition that the people of Nigeria have a right to participate in drafting any document that will form the basis with which and within which they are governed. And that is the only way to bring about legitimacy to whatever constitutional arrangement we are going to have in future.
Okay.
We have just spoken about restructuring. And I believe that a lot of areas need restructure. For example, in the course of this program, I listened to Senator Okoromo talking about water resources. I don't see why, in the first place, the federal government had to acquire, for example, the river projects in this country and establish what is now known as river basins. These river basins are now filled with bureaucracy. They don't work. I come from Kano State,
Honorable Naba,
and I know how this Jamara River Basin, which took the place of Kano River Project, is faring. It's not faring well. It has not achieved its purposes. This
Honorable Naba, apologies, because of our time,
1976.
I needed to sincerely thank you for your thoughts on restructuring Nigeria and some of the what you have preferred as solution. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight, Honorable Gali Naaba, former Speaker of the House of Representatives there. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Let's now shift our attention to Ondo governorship election. Some suspected thugs, allegedly loyal to the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress, have clashed in Akure, the state capital. The incident has been confirmed to China television by the spokesperson of the Ondo State Police Command, Teolo Ikoro, who says the confrontation began last night when the miscreants lit bonfires on the street and engaged themselves in a free-for-all. The situation was, however, brought under control by officers from a nearby police division who dispersed the warring party supporters. The Inspector General of Police has deployed the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of research and planning, Adeboye Oyebade, to administer the general security arrangement for the upcoming poll. But again, what are the thirds and why are the politicians going in the manner in which they're going on those states? Some of the fears that have been created, some of the issues that have been raised. Let's speak to some of those key stakeholders, especially in these two major political parties that have clashed. I have joining me the Commissioner for Information in Ondo State, Mr. Donald Ojogoye, joins us here in the studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Ojogoye, for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And from Akure is Dr. Benson Enukwume. He is the Director of Media and Communications for the PDP campaign organization. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us tonight on the program. Let's begin by getting to know the lives of the people of Ondo State is very important. But it's very sad to see some of your supporters clash in the manner in which they have clashed. This is not the first time this is happening. It's happened in Owo. It's happened in Ondo. Now it's happening again in Akure. Why?
I think, like every other person, not just as an individual, but as a government, we are very much concerned as every other responsible citizen in this country that when we are approaching very crucial elections as in this manner, that people will want to, under the guise of political thuggery, want to take advantage of the situation to unleash mayhem on the people. You discover that most of the victims are the innocent ones. And the most unfortunate aspect of this scenario is that even those unleashing violence on the people themselves inadvertently are victims. So that is where everybody has to be worried. But here again, we have found ourselves in such a very disheartening situation that we have come to politicize it. The people have decided that every little occurrence, there must be some political blame to it. The blame game has been on. We know our party, the APC, has also been pummeled for what he didn't know anything about.
So you don't know anything about the violence of today?
Yes, it is not possible. Let me tell you, Shehu, it is not possible for leaders of the party. I'm even including everybody in my party, for instance, I mean, in particular, to direct that unleash mayhem on the people. It is not done.
But it's the role of you leaders to curtail the excesses of your supporters and followers, isn't it?
Yes. On our side, it is not appropriate for us to come to national TV stations and say this is what we have done, this is what we have done. One series of security arrangements have been put in place, and I know, for one, that the governor of the state, who is perceived to be the chief security officer, because that is just on paper, has even taken very uncommon security steps, measures rather, to ensure that this is curtailed.
All right.
One, he has even cut the number of persons who follow him to campaigns. Right. And it is also not possible, let us also be clear with this, it is not possible for the governor, not even no governorship candidates will have the capacity to know who follows him to every campaign point. So leadership has a role.
Yeah, so because we have a list of issues to discuss, let me get the reaction of Dr. Benson Enukwume on the issue of violence. This is not the first time, Doc, that we're talking about this. Yourself and Mr. Ojogoye here, we've talked about this similar thing, and yet it's happening. The lives of an average Ondo person is involved here.
Well, let me thank you, and I also thank the Honorable Commissioner there. At this junction, it took not fair. For every house that is built, the foundation of that house is very material. There would be no curse if there is not a cause. So it is action and reaction. And I will constantly go back to the basics. Recall about 2 months ago, the former chairman of APC in this state, Mr. Isaac Ekemeke, who was once upon a time the Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice in this state, former SSD. In fact, the gentleman had the privilege of being the first chairman of NECO, came out in a video that went viral. That he is a militant, that the party was going to taunt Mr. Ika Jegede SAN, and that he has not seen anything yet. You confronted him with this fact. He said, no, he was just yabbing. You yab with AK-47, you yab that you are a militant, and that went viral. There is a cause, there is a foundation to it. So it was on this one of your platforms that you spoke to the governor of our state, our own Arakuni, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu SAN, who declared former governor of this state, Governor Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, that he is his bogus enemy for life. The reason why it is bogus enemy, nobody knows. He went further to declare the former CJ of this state, the Lord Honorable Justice Olaseyinde Kumuyi, as his enemy for life. And that he spoke. He said he has no regret, and that he doubts whether he will forgive them for life. Now, these are two personalities in the state. I am glad that Mr. Osoko said that the governor is the chief security officer in the state. He's the number one citizen. If the number one citizen can declare these two personalities that they are his enemy for life, and the former chairman has said he was going to make trouble, what do you expect of the younger ones to do?
Doc, let's
When
move
the
into
mother-
some other issues relating to the factors and the issues that will determine the race. Just a moment, Doc. Mr. Ojoko, it's going to be a very, very interesting race, isn't it? And perhaps some of the issues that have come to the table, I'm not sure that your candidate and your party thought that this race was going to look like this. I'm not sure you thought that it was going to be this tough for you getting into the race. For example, you've seen the kind of situation happen in the south, in the central. For example, you have Mr. Jegede, for example, from Akure. You have a sitting deputy governor contesting against your party from the ZLLP. Is this a threat for your principal and for your party?
Well, thank you so much for that question. I think we have never felt threatened in any form since the beginning of this contest. In the first place, I think what's the scenario, the difference in the scenarios we've seen between 2016 and 2020 is the fact that we've seen some elements of desperation. And of course, desperation can only come when certain risky decisions have been taken. And it's obvious that those in the PDP and those in the ZLP, those contests, the symbols of this contest in those other parties, they have taken a plunge of risk. So definitely there will be this element of desperation. So if at all, we are not the ones who are desperate, because we've had an opportunity to serve the people. And let me also say this. The analogy that you've drawn may not be totally correct. It is not totally correct in the sense that, recall, that in 2016, it was this same scenario that played out. I mean the major contenders. Jegede, PDP, from Central, our leader, Shifolushola Oke, SAN, AD, from the South, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, SAN, from the North. So it was a three-way contest representing the three senatorial districts. And what will shock you is this. The governor, as candidate then, not as a sitting governor, won in 4 out of the 6 local government areas in the South. Was there a threat then? If there was no threat, then there wouldn't be a threat anymore.
So, Mr. Ojogo,
So even in the central,
yeah,
the governor won in the central.
Another
Not to talk
question
about the
that
other
they're
local
bringing
governments.
to the table is, what can your candidate and the governor show for the last 3 years that he's been in office? We'll talk about that after this break. We take another moment, everyone, and when we return, all eyes are on Ondo governorship election and the seat, which is in Alagbaka area of Akure. Who becomes the next governor gets our attention on the program tonight. Don't go anywhere. We'll talk more on the issues during this election. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, staying with us on the program. I still have Dr. Bensi Enoch of the PDP in Ondo State and Mr. Donald Ojogo, the Commissioner for Information in Ondo State of the APC. You're saying that the scenario which played out 4 years ago might repeat itself. Is that what you're saying?
Definitely. And I mean it with
the Jegede and the deputy governor, you think your candidate can defeat them at this election?
Well, it's clear where we are contesting on the tripod of hard work, performance, and integrity. That is our anchor.
What would be
the
the
goodwill
performance
of the people?
for those, for example, Dr. Bensi Enoch, who is on the program, had said on this program that your candidate has nothing to show for the people of Ondo State in the last 3 years in terms of work that has been done. What would you say if you mention 3 projects or 3 things that the governor or this administration has done for the people of Ondo State? What would that be?
Oh, well, I think I don't want to go into the merits of what he has said, but if the industrial hub that has employed over 4,000 workers is not an achievement, then we are sorry to say that he has missed the point. If the construction of the Ore flyover is not an achievement, then I don't know what could be determined as an achievement for any government. If the OSUTEC, now renamed the Olusegun Agagu University of Science and Technology, that was abandoned for 8 years, have been returned, have been revived, with internal roads and new blocks constructed in the south, where I come from, where Mr. Enuku comes from, where the deputy governor comes from, then it will be a misnomer for people to say that there has not been achievement. If over 400 kilometers of roads have been constructed within a space of 3.5 years in Ondo State, and people say those are not achievements, then we don't know the manner of campaign people are running.
All right.
If over 600 classrooms, primary schools have either been rebuilt, renovated, or rehabilitated, and people come here to say that nothing has happened, then something must be wrong with our electoral process.
Dr. Enoch, you've heard what Mr. Ojogo has said about the issue of performance. You have said the governor has done nothing, but he has listed some of the things that the governor has done. He has said that they will beat you the way they beat you 4 years ago. How do you
It was part of us.
How do you react to that?
Well, when you come on air and you read out achievements, nobody can immediately assess it except people on ground. The Ore Bridge, that is the flyover, true, it has been constructed, no doubt about it. But the question we ask is at what cost? If a woman is to prepare meal for 6 persons, and she says she will take 2 million to prepare the meal for 6 persons, then you ask, what kind of meal is she preparing? The Ore Bridge cost 5.6 billion. 5.6 billion. That is a bridge that is about 100 meters. Yes, true. Our people are using it. I drove on that bridge, but at what cost? I asked my brother, the Honorable Commissioner, you know the bypass that is to go through Okitipupa, linking to Ibokoda. Has that road been constructed? Has it been completed? Your government went ahead and constructed about 1 kilometer. And you see that we have done the whole of Akure, saying that it has completed that particular bypass. The bypass that links Odiaye and Okun. This government came on board and said it was going to construct a road, a 51-kilometer road from Araromi to Lekki. Where is the road now?
Dr. Enoch, would you react to the fact that he said the same? You were on this side, on the side of the APC the last time, but he said this time around, the way they beat the PDP, they will beat them again. How do you react to that?
The scenario is different. At that time, PDP was wearing two heads. There was the McCarthy, there was the Modi head. And you know that Jagede went through a lot of challenges. Just only 2 days before the election, when it came to campaign, the scenario has changed. We have tested Akeredolu, and I tell you without controversy, we found him wanting in education, in health. Yes, on some roads, he did well, at least for all them. At least for our work. We know those ones. The road in our were done. Ask him for the road in Akoko. Ask him the road for Isua. Ask him for the road in Obadi. Ask him the road for RGD. Nothing happened.
Dr. Enoch, just for a moment. So let's ask Mr. Ojogo now. Apart from what he has raised as issue, the question was, why should the people of Ondo State give Mr. Akeredolu a second term? The issue of Osopadek funds and how it has been managed has been raised. The hike in the tuition fees of tertiary institution, that issue has been raised. The issue of the 750 million security vote has been raised. The issue of the fact that the First Lady allegedly gets 11 million from the Ministry of Women Affairs. That issue has also been raised. How do you react to some of these issues?
Well, the totality of everything, the scenario in those states, is that when elements form themselves into an opposition bloc and believe that the only way to get to power is to continue to engage in blackmail and propaganda, it has never worked before. This is the first time somebody in opposition will come to air and say that the governor has not performed. That has never been their campaign before, but it is not a surprise to us. Unless this man here is saying that the roads that are being constructed in Akure are also in Owo, that the Okala Bojuto in Ikare is also in Owo, that the one that was constructed, that was abandoned, Ayekari Relay Road, to Okitipa to link up to our area in Ilaje is also in Owo. So this misinformation have to be cleared. It is not enough for people to come to Lagos, go to Abuja and say what they feel should be said.
But
it is
would you react to some of the issue that I've raised right now on the Osopadek funds,
let me
the
tell
tuition
you,
fees, the 750 million security funds?
Let me start from the tuition fees. The only reason we can feel uncomfortable will be that these tuition fees charged in Ondo State compared to other states in the Southwest are higher. They must go and find out. And we have always told them, don't engage in lazy opposition. It is mere desperation. It is mere desperation. Have they taken time to find out? All the while they have said the tuition fees have been hiked. Have they found out what we charge in other states? If they had, and they had the opportunity of knowing that what we charge in Ondo State was higher, I know they would have released the documents, they would have released the content of whatever research that they did. But because they didn't have, they couldn't come. So it is one of the campaign points that they have to, but I think it's a misadventure on their part. And we believe strongly that this movement, what we have seen in Ondo State is going to be a movement.
All right, just a moment, Mr. Ojogo.
Not because of the governor, but because of the fact that the opposition, whether in the PDP or in the ZLP, or a combination of both, is too tattered, is too broken to face our onslaught.
Dr. Benson, we need to close the program. Let me get your final thoughts and reaction in 30 seconds because we need to close. Your reaction and final thought in 30 seconds.
The final word is that we are ready for the election. Let there be peace. The 750 million that the governor collects, that he should please divert that one to pay the civil servants. The one that his wife collects and his son collects, and recall the person that said this statement.
Your 30 seconds is over, Dr. Benson. Your final thought?
Yeah, well, I just feel that this time will be over. But there is nothing like 750 million naira that has been collected that they are alleging. They don't have evidence. If they have documents, they would have brought them up. Look about a ministry, Ministry of Women Affairs, where they are less than the governor's wife collects 11 million naira for monthly. The totality of the running grant for that ministry for the year is less than 20 million.
All right, we need to leave it at that.
Is that the truth?
I must sincerely thank both of you because you are out of time. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. That's our show for today. Bye-bye.